What's fresh for me at the moment is around regenerative culture. As a collective up here on the Northern Rivers, we just came out of a pretty intense flood. And from what I understand about when nature reorganizes like that, it's an opportunity for us to renovate, regenerate. And that's present for me at the moment. What am I renovating in my own life from that call? I'd say even beyond the call, it was a scream from the water. And that scream reverberated through these northern rivers. And what the call for action for me was, what am I renovating in my own life? And that relationship to water, that relationship to the feminine aspect has been a big inquiry for me. And what's present for me right now is, how am I renovating that old story? And I think as a culture of men, but maybe we even say like that, the masculine energy, what is our relationship to that is fluid, to that which is the history of color? We say water like that, the history of color, waters of all origin. It's a possibility for us to look into, where are we not able to feel into the cycle of woman, and where do the certain layers of her cycle activate our own insecurity? So that's really present for me at the moment. I work with an Indigenous elder called Camita Vicente. She's an incredible artist from Ecuador, and part of the body of work that she's presented to us, or presented to the women within our community, is something called the School of Secrets, which looks at the secret power of woman's blood. And there's a whole universe there. But the one thing that I think I can share about this is that through seeing my wife and the women in our community go through this process, which is essentially where women stop when they're bleeding. Instead of running on that patriarchal system of just go, they actually have the space to stop and go into ceremony when they bleed. So within that concept of the cycle, looking at that time of woman's bleeding as the winter, as a moment where they go in, and actually looking at my own conditioned tendencies and how triggered and how much narcissism, how much subtle manipulation happens when my woman turns inward to acknowledge that time of her cycle. It brings up a lot of my narcissism. It brings a lot of my little boy that feels insecure because all of a sudden I'm not supported. So I'm curious about that dialogue at the moment. How am I engaging with the cycle of woman, with the different elements and aspects of her rhythm within the month? And then from there, I look at her moving through this cycle, and I question and I look at, what is my cycle as a man?